today marks the last video in the One Chart at a Time video series. I'll have one more video tomorrow to wrap up the entire series, but today is the last video where we'll actually talk about content and how to create a different type of graph. Now, you may not have thought about tables as being a form of data visualization, but they absolutely are. It's absolutely the case that there are some times when you need to show specific numbers to your audience or to your reader or to your user. And sometimes you can take those tables and you make them more visual. You could add other types of visual elements to them, be them icons, be them color, be them shading, be them lines. So in today's episode of the One Chart at a Time video series, we have Tom Mock from our studio coming in to help us understand how to create more effective and better tables. Tom, over to you.
Thanks for having me, John. My name is Tom Mock. I am a customer success representative here at our studio, and I'm going to be talking about tables. So tables are a part of the data kind of storytelling with data toolkit. They are not graphics, and they kind of operate in a very different function to graphics. So tables are used to communicate lists of quantitative information. What that really means is that tables represent the literal presentation of actual numbers with categorical groups in an organized way. So you can see them across basically every industry, spreadsheets, web pages, custom applications or software, or static reports. Again, we typically use tables for things like lookup or comparison of exact individual values. And this is its advantage over something like a graphic, which is best used, on the other hand, to show the shape or the pattern, trends, or specific exceptions. So with tables and this emphasis on precise quantitative values with categorical or a combination of categories and other quantitative units of measure, you can have a table that can operate as either a lookup, saying quantitative to categorical, or comparison, so quantitative to quantitative. A lookup table would be, say, I want to know what the United States crop production was in 2020. So United States is a category within the year 2020. What was the crop production? The crop production would be the quantitative. So look up a value for a category and a quantitative value. On the other hand, something like comparison table would be comparing quantitative to quantitative. So that means what was the crop production in 2020 for the US as compared to the crop production for Argentina in 2020. So now we're comparing crop production to crop production across two different categories. There's other kind of groups within those, but those cover the main two functions in terms of comparing numbers or looking up a specific value. Other kind of variations would be interactive versus static. So most of us probably have generated static tables in the past. Interactive tables are honestly very common as well. And you can see them in things through JavaScript or HTML for websites, statistical programming such as R or data science languages like R, Excel or other spreadsheeting software, or many other business intelligence tools. So, you don't have to think of only of static tables or only boring tables you may have seen in the past. They can be rich, storytelling tools. Some considerations that designers or data practitioners need to take into account when creating tables is, can this table supplement an existing graphic or maybe more succinctly represent several graphics? So is it in conjunction with the graphic or replacing it? And just like with general data visualization, you want to approach tables with some core ideas in mind. So what is the primary purpose of this table? And what type of relationship are you trying to show? Again, are you doing a lookup table or a comparison table? So be very specific in how you intend for the table to be used, although it could be used in many different ways. Also, you can use encodings just like with data viz. So things like color, border, text weight, highlighting, or even embedding graphics into a table to show, like a heat map or a bar chart or spark line. Adding white space or other things to highlight and differentiate sections of the table. And then just like you would with a publication graphic, add descriptive titles, footnotes, labels, basically the information you need to tell a full story in a simple table. In terms of some graphics, or in this case, some tables that I would like to show, I'm going to hop over and show some information from 538. So in this case, again, I'm showing tables from the 538 website. So I think they do probably the best job right now in terms of showing up both a lot of tables and doing a really, really great job with those tables. So in this article, they're showing some quarterback data from the NFL, and there's three static tables here I'd like to walk through very briefly. So the first two tables, these could easily be a bar chart in terms of all we're really showing is one value sorted by that value, and then a second table with a different unit of measure for the same players. So in this case, again, it could be a bar chart, but this allows us to see exact values in terms of like everyone is below 7.0 yards per attempt. And Drew Brees not only has a very short distance he likes to pass, but he has a few attempts of 20 yards or plus. So he's throwing the ball very short, and he really doesn't throw the ball deep very often at all. And I think another good point is that they've highlighted, so they, the story here is look at Drew Brees. It's got that in the title. It's got that highlighted in both tables. And then they have a gray variation to say, here's the numbers you want to pay attention to. It's got the year, it's got the team, but you really want to look at the average yards per attempt or the number of attempts more than 20 yards out. They do go even a step further and then combine those two tables along with the third value. So now we have a numerical value, a percentage, and a quarterback rating, which is a normalized value between 0 and 100, basically saying how good is their performance. So Drew Brees has essentially one of the lowest yards per attempt, does have the lowest deep passing percentage, but of this sampling has the highest quarterback rating. So while his stats don't look very good, his overall performance is very good. And then you can compare this against, say, the NFL average. So this table gives you a lot of information in terms you could look at other quarterbacks. You see Drew Brees is here again from last year. You can compare values. So say his rating to the average, compare values, his ratings to the next lowest or the next highest, and look at exact values saying like, well, where did he fall on these spectrums? So those are really nice. On the other hand, an interactive graphic can tell even more of a story. So here we're looking at NFL data again. This is NFL predictions about who's going to make the playoffs or win the Super Bowl and what their expected record is. So number one, we can see that this column is what it's sorted by, which is the basically rating of the overall team. And we can see that Drew Brees' Saints are doing pretty well. The Chiefs and the Steelers are the other two top teams here in the top three. And there's a lot of different color and interactivity built in here. So there's these little colored bars in terms of the change. So positive or negative indicated with green or red. I would have loved this to be something else besides green and red for color blindness, but they do have dual encoding. So you have a positive and a negative. So even if you couldn't tell this difference visually, you can still see the numbers and change those or look at the change. They also have an embedded heat map, which I really, really like because it's, again, dual encoding. So you can basically scroll down quickly and see that, well, the teams that are rated the highest have the highest chance of making the playoffs, as well as winning the Super Bowl. And teams, below this rating have a very low chance of winning the Super Bowl. But beyond that, maybe you want to look at specific divisions. You can interact with the table and do different sorting. So now I can ask a different question, which is, rather than look at the best teams in the league, who's the best team within the AFC East? Or who's the worst team within the AFC East? Or going down and finding any other team of interest and seeing what their percentages are. And everything reacts to that. Well, who has the best point differential number ranking? And then you compare within teams. Who has the best record? All these different ways of engaging with a rich table in this example. All right, so that was a quick run through kind of the beauty and power of tables, some quick examples of best practices, and then the examples from 538 are very strong. Definitely a great place to steal like an artist in terms of borrow ideas or some of the practices they're following. And John, thanks again for having me.
And thanks to Tom for that great review of how to make more efficient tables. Lots of great tools out there for you to use to create better tables that help your reader find the most important patterns, trends, and individual values. So I'll have one more video tomorrow to wrap up this entire series. but I hope you'll take today's lesson and think about how to create your tables so that they are better able to help your reader make discoveries and find insights. Thanks.